Hello to the Juice Guru community, and we're going out live all over the internet right now. I'm going on to Facebook for the community, and if you're watching the replay, welcome there too. And let me just make sure that you will hear a little echo in a minute when we're going out on Facebook. We're probably going live on Facebook now. Hello to our friends on Facebook. And if you're watching, this is going to be a phenomenal interview. We've got Anita Sanchez here. Hi, Anita. Where are you hanging out?
Hi, I'm in Boulder, Colorado, right in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains.
Are you guys getting some snow?
Not for the last few days, but we had some for the holidays. It was great.
Okay, because some of our friends, I know there's some serious storms going on the East Coast right now.
Yes, they're getting more than their share for sure.
So, and I'm here in Redondo Beach. You know, it's a little chill in the air, but it's nothing like what some of our other friends are experiencing. And if you're hanging out in the chat room, let us know where you're coming in from. How's the weather there? Hopefully everything's going okay. And if you're in our thoughts and prayers, hopefully you're safe. Everyone's safe during this time of the year, this beginning of the new year. And if you're watching on Facebook, of course, you can type in questions. If you're watching the replay and the Juice Guru Rewind, you can type in your questions there for Anita. And if you're joining us live, you can always come on video as part of the Juice Guru Rewind at the end by raising your hand or typing in the chat box, and just let us know that you hear us. I see a couple of our friends are here backstage from the Juice Guru Rewind, and let us know that you hear us. We're going to start recording this amazing interview, so let's get ready to get dialed in on climate change, some of the things we need to learn and become more aware, right, Anita? Isn't that what this is all about?
It sure is. It's really important time for all of us to be here and to be our best.
Thank you, Marie. I see you typed in, and I guess that means you hear us okay. You can hear both me and Anita, and we're recording, so this will be aired on an upcoming episode of Juice Guru Radio, so that's a lot of fun. And we're going to go ahead and get started as long as you're ready, Anita. That's the main thing.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
Great. This episode of Juice Guru Radio is brought to you by Try Best, Making Healthy Living Easy, and the Juice Guru Rewind at juicegururewind.com. Hello and welcome to another edition of Juice Guru Radio. I'm your host, Steve Prusak. Today we've got Anita Sanchez, PhD, Aztec and Mexican-American transformational leadership consultant, speaker, coach, and author of the new international bestseller, The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. She's here. She's going to be right here after this, so stay tuned. Grab a juice, some tea, water. We'll be back right after this with Anita Sanchez. Hello and welcome back to Juice Guru Radio. So we've got Anita Sanchez here. Her new book, The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times, is an international bestseller. We're going to hear all about that, her teachings, the Four Sacred Gifts, and more. Let's welcome to the show right now, Anita Sanchez.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me here, and I'm excited for all your viewers and listeners to get in on all this information.
Thank you, Anita. And, you know, we've got to get this information out there. So what's going on in the world today? What are some of the things that you're dialed into that you're trying to share with your tribe, and what led to writing this book?
Yes, well, what led to it is listening to the indigenous wisdom of elders from different traditions all over the world. And they came together in the 90s, 27 of them, in response to the fact that we have forgotten our connection to people, earth, and spirit. And as long as we do that, if we don't remember, then we'll create more and more suffering. And so that's what we're seeing, is a lot of needless suffering, to the point that, you know, it's of those kinds of proportions that it's a determining factor whether we choose to understand our unity with nature, with the earth, with each other, or that we continue to destroy species, destroy the environment. And of course, we all want healthy, thriving lives for ourselves and hopefully for the other species as well.
Was this a lifelong passion? Like, what led to this journey of waking up to what we're doing to the planet and ourselves?
Yes, well, for me, it really came down to, I was actually losing hope. Now, I don't know if that's happened to any of your listeners or viewers, but I was in the 90s. I do a lot of work in corporate world, and I was working in, and still do, on bringing together people from different parts of the world across all sorts of differences: gender, race, culture, ethnicity. And what I was finding is that things weren't changing fast enough. There was just so much still negative talk, hatred, violence, and I began to lose hope. And then in volunteering, with the Native Americans back in the mid-90s, I was present to this hoop this beautiful hoop with 100 eagle feathers, and that these elders had come together and put these 4 sacred gifts for all of us, not just Indigenous people, but for all humanity. Use these gifts so that we could remember our connection to people, earth, and spirit.
Well, I've got some notes here on your teachings. So let's start with this. What is the 4 sacred gifts?
Yeah, that's really critical, and they're no secret. We already have them, so we can use them. So the first gift is the power to forgive the unforgivable. And you think about that, the unforgivable. We all have our different notions of what that is, but we have that power. The second gift is the power of unity. Unity that it will take for us, all of us, to understand our connection, to care for one another, to create harmony and balance. The third gift is the incredible gift of healing and wholeness. And I think about your juice guru and going through your site. I'm just thinking, we have to start from the inside out. It's outside in job, but it starts from the inside out. So what is that? Are we caring and healthy in terms of ourselves, but then how do we treat each other? So that healing process. And then the fourth gift is the gift of hope in action.
So to expand on that, you also teach about the Eagle Hope prophecy, and what is the importance of that?
Yes. Well, the Eagle Hoop prophecy is how this all came together. And it was from a vision back in 1994 of an elder, a Mohican elder, who in his vision, it's different than a dream. A vision is really a call, a bigger call from different traditions. And in that call, he was informed that he was to bring together elders from all over the world to just send out that message, and that together they were to create this one hoop with 4 different colors, the 4 people, groups of people. One hoop, because we're one human race, but we came with these different earth suits. So there's the red, the yellow, the white, and the black, but together as one. And that we all have our different medicine, our different traditions, our different gifts, but they were always meant to be together. And it's time now that we bring all those gifts together so that we can create harmony and balance, so that we can have long-term, thriving earth and living situation for our children and our children's children and other species' children.
That would be, you think we'd all be in alignment on that. So, there are lots of challenges out there. What do you see as some of the biggest stumbling blocks right now to creating unity and care for ourselves and the planet?
Yes, I think the first thing is that so many people see themselves as separate. There's a lot of focus on individuality, and it's not bad. And that hoop doesn't mean you get rid of the individual, but the imbalance is having that we don't think about the we and how we're connected, and that we need each other. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that we do alone. Even sitting here breathing, I get to thank the trees and the plants, for changing the carbon into this oxygen that we're breathing. Everything. I've got my PhD, but I didn't do that alone. A whole lot of people helping me along the way, supporting me. And that's true for all of us. So the first thing that I see that's causing a lot of the suffering is this illusion of separateness, and that we truly are not separate. We are very much connected in everything I do. If I'm do well by you, if I do good to you, treat you with dignity, I not only do that to you, but I do that to the earth and to the spirit. And if I hurt the earth, I not only hurt the earth, but I hurt the people and I hurt the spirit. So it's all connected. And so if we could change that mindset of understanding that this separateness is actually hurting us, separating our head from our heart, separating what we put into our bodies as if it has nothing to do with how well we feel and the way we can give and contribute in the world. If we're running on, horrible, not nutritious kinds of things, I don't even want to call it food, then of course we're not going to be able to be present to each other, caring human beings as we're intended to be.
Yeah, and it's less than it ever would. It's less than it ever was, because what they're finding now is we're more disconnected than ever. We used to have a group of friends we can confide in. They find now we have maybe 1 to 1.5 on the average, and they say maybe it's social media that's creating this false sense of connectedness. What do you think some of those issues are, and how can we overcome those?
Well, I agree with you in terms of the assessment that's out there. I'm not going to give up my smartphone. I'm not going to give up my computer. I mean, look, we're able to communicate with each other. It's wonderful. However, you can't Google wisdom. That means we need to close these things down sometimes and give what we need. In life, we all need oxygen. We need rest. We need nutrition. We need water. And we need community. A baby will die if it does not have connection. And so it's true of adults. We look for different ways to get connection. And so that whole sense, again, of how we change the mindset is to understand that we need, this is life-giving to us to have this connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Here I am, because of technology, here we are connecting, and our friends that are watching right now, we're all connected to them, and it's phenomenal. We've never had this before.
Exactly. That's why I said, I don't think it's about giving it up, but it's also not having it be the illusion. In my life, I've gone through lots of different traumas and experiences from a little girl, and in adulthood, I mean, talk about racism and sexism and all these, the violence against women and all those things. Well, what I found is that separateness, that notion. I used to build a wall, what I call my armor, and I didn't let anything get in because it would hurt me. But what I realized is that I think we're all walking around unconscious with a lot of armor for lots of various reasons. But when you begin to lower that, you realize it was keeping out some of the bad stuff, but it was keeping out the good stuff too. And so once you begin to really look at your wholeness, your connection to each other and to the earth, then you begin to understand we're part of this abundance. We're not separate. And it is giving to us. And so then we'll be able to be more resilient. We're able to forgive and use the different gifts of unity, healing, and hope.
Right. I mean, you say in those agreements or those sacred gifts, you say, forgive the unforgivable. I mean, I could see that as being a huge challenge. How do we, begin to embrace that idea?
Well, I think the first thing is that we need to realize what forgiveness is not. And I was mistaken by that too. And I think that's why it took me a little longer. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you forget what happened, the mistreatment or hurt. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're weak or that you're betraying your group of people if it was one of those big hurts that was to whole groups of people or to the earth. But rather, forgiveness means that you can actually seek justice. It just means that we love ourselves enough to let go and forgive so that we can free up our energy to focus on what we want to create. And that was for me, that is, all four gifts are very powerful and they're very much interlinked. But that forgiving the unforgivable, I have to say, was a huge path to freedom for me, really understand what it means to be free.
Now, in some of the work you've done working with companies to become more inclusive and functional, what were some of the keys that you've learned that we can all take to create that in our own lives?
Well, one of the things that I found is that, and when I work with groups, and companies are so more open to this now. I remember in the days when I would say, okay, we're going to meditate, and we do 1 minute. Everybody loved that. But then when we moved to 2, the feedback would be, that's a little too long. But it is about getting still and quiet. And it doesn't mean a lot of time. It doesn't mean you have to sit for 40 minutes, an hour, and do all of that, although I think that's wonderful. It's just taking moments to be quiet, to understand what's happening inside ourselves. And then to be able, with that practice, you begin to do that with others. And how you can begin to do this, I think, in a very easy way is to, what I do several times a day, definitely in the morning and the evening as part of my practice, is to be of gratitude, to think of all the things that I'm grateful for. And they don't have to be huge things. It's just, hey, I woke up. That is a huge thing, And then I have this wonderful family, or look, I get to be outside. It's cold, bundle up and be in these trees. I mean, it's just, and be able to serve people who are hurting, who want to have community, but have been so traumatized and hurt that they find it difficult, or who are so hurt. You must hear some of this because I make up the story of people who care about nutrition. They care about the earth because we're not going to have the healthy, nutritious food if we destroy the earth, if we destroy the clean water. So it's important for us to get some quiet time to understand what's going on inside ourselves, from the head to the heart and back again, and then between each other. And gratitude is one of the paths to do that.
Well, I wore the right shirt for you then.
You sure did. I love that shirt. Be great in gratitude. Be gratitude.
Yeah, be gratitude for those
Be
listening on the radio. I just
Yeah.
happen to be wearing, but everything happens for a reason. I love that.
It does.
You know, another thing in the book you mentioned, you quote the elders as talking about one human race, and how do you think about going beyond oneness, beyond, you know, gender and race? How do you think of that and just, you know, define it that way?
Well, I don't know that it's not leaving it behind, because I think we lose people. So part of our beauty, so we talk about the great mystery, you can call it creator, God, Allah, universe, energy, all different sorts of names, is that there are no mistakes. So we are meant to be in these different bodysuits and we have different gifts, but we are meant to be one. But how do we do that? And that's why I wrote this book, because these gifts Spirit gave to these 27 elders, because I asked, how did you come up with 4 gifts? There's thousands of gifts. They said, no, Spirit told us these 4 gifts, if you practice forgiving the unforgivable, healing, unity, and hope in action, you will remember how to be in right relationship with yourself, with other human beings, with the earth and spirit. And so that's what I think sometimes is missing. We can throw out this oneness, but how do we do that? And what I found for the last 22 years, using these 4 gifts in my personal life and using them with leaders of corporations and their teams, that it has made a difference. Has made a huge difference in how they care for themselves, care for others, and begin to connect in that it's not, it's again, the earth matters. It matters what we're doing to the other creatures and the various elements of our world.
We're with international bestseller Anita Sanchez, PhD. Her new book, international bestselling, The 4 Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times, published by Simon & Schuster. You can get your copy at Amazon.com, the usual culprit. She's got a copy right there if you're able to tune into that. And also your website, Anita, is it up on your website?
Yes, if you go to foursacredgifts.com, and please do, foursacredgifts.com, you can learn a whole lot more. And you can download the free song that I wrote along with some professional writers and musicians. And you can download that, and it's beautiful. It has a lot of the concepts that are in the book.
In the book, so we see the word indigenous there. What does that term mean? How can the average person connect with that idea even?
Well, the reality of this is that we all are indigenous to the planet, to the earth, right? So in that respect, it's all of us. We are one, and that fits with our with most indigenous people's worldview, that we are one relation. So we talk about all our relations. However, in modern times, when we talk about indigenous, we're really talking about groups of people all over the world. They're indigenous people all over the world who have kept the traditions, the original knowledge and instructions about how to be one with the earth and with each other. Every summer I take a group of people into the depths of the Amazon, the sacred headwaters in Ecuador of the Amazon. And we stay with several different tribes, the Ashwa and the Sapra. And when one of the main things they realize very quickly is they begin to, as they learn about their connection to the earth and get connected to their purpose and things, is they realize these people, they don't talk about living in the rainforest. They talk about being part of the rainforest. Just imagine what it'd be like if we all talked about and treated the earth where we live as being part of rather than separate, like that I am part of this. This is me, I am it. You don't talk about them as being, you can't survive. The rainforest depends on those human beings and how it cares, and the human beings depends on that rainforest. And so it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And that when we talk about indigenous, we're all called to care, but those indigenous people are the ones who have not lost that connection to the earth.
When we look back at some of, what these, these tribes were able to create tens of thousands of years ago and how in tune they were with the earth and the planets and, and weather and everything. And we look at how things are now and this disconnect. Do you think we've lost some of that wisdom along the way?
We have, and the good news is that people are starting to turn back and to realize, hey, it's not about giving up on the new technology and understanding things. That's really important. But there's also some of this knowing that's inside of each one of us, that elders, the wisdom keepers of the various traditions, are here and ready to share with us. It's no longer these private ceremonies, and some of those exist, but mostly it's about all of us stepping forward in the call to be who we're meant to be, to share our gifts and do it in a way that it's in right relationship, in care and treating in dignity ourselves, each other, and the earth.
Well, we can agree that that the Native people have developed resiliency, and everyone could agree about that. I mean, here they survive all kinds of
genocide, right? Genocide. That's why I so honor the elders from all over the world who, when they put these gifts in there, they said, forgive the unforgivable. We're talking about people who still, even today, many parts of the world are still under siege. And yet they're the very ones who said, no, forgive, no, love, be in unity, care for the earth, because they know this is the truth of how we're going to not only survive, but thrive. And that's in question. Scientists have that in question. The indigenous wisdom keepers, the elders, were the first scientists. And so we're seeing modern science is really affirming all the things that they were teaching us from the beginning.
Amazing.
Yes.
And especially when we look at the times we're in now, and there's more division, there's more fear and anger overall. You could just look at your Facebook feed to see the contrast. How can the four sacred gifts help us to respond to these negative emotions and divisiveness that's just kind of an epidemic right now?
Well, what you realize in these gifts, fundamental to all of these gifts, is one of the practices that Native people, Indigenous people have had for a very long time, and that is listening. And so I think we have to slow down, because if we're caught up in emotion, anger, angst, huge anxiety, then we move to action not in a centered way. So we create more chaos, more anger and angst. And if we slow down and we just listen with the softest part of your ear, listen with your heart to what is really happening, and we do that, then we're slowing down the amygdala and the flight, freeze, and all the other kinds of things that modern science tells us that Indigenous elders were telling us from the beginning too. And then we can choose to act in a way that we've allowed ourselves the time to see what really is going to be. I use the word life-giving, because it's a choice for all of us. We get to either be good medicine or bad medicine. Good medicine is anyone or anything that brings into alignment the spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical plane. And we all have that ability, and different things, nature has that ability to help do that, bring us into alignment. Or we can choose to be bad medicine and create more harm. So I think one of the things is to just slow down and practice listening, being still, quieting, not speaking, but just being. One of the things that I'm realizing is that we have all these peace talks happening. We need some peace listening. And it starts with ourselves. It starts whether we're talking about nutrition. Listen, if I'm having this, not feeling well, my stomach reacts after I eat certain wheat product, all those kinds of things. If I get still and listen, then I can address what's not working, right? You know all this from your beautiful work that you're doing that I so appreciate. And that's what we need to be doing in our relationships with each other.
And then that'll transfer over to relationships with the earth and everything else. It does. It does start with ourselves. It's funny how we could think, we put ourselves out to try to help when we need a lot of help inwardly, don't we?
Yes. And even this book, at first when I was writing, I said, oh, well, I'm doing this for the elders. I'm getting this wisdom. And I'm just, I feel like I'm like Twitter. Okay, go here. These beautiful, amazing women and men who've been the traditional elders. And then I had to get still and, that sounds very altruistic. But I'm part of this circle too. So what is it doing for me? And it's been a healing process for me. It's been a huge healing process for someone who, has endured in early life huge economic hardship, lots of racism, and sexual violence as well. And so this whole process is a healing process. And if we look at everything, not just the good things, but the tough things too, is like, what is this here bringing to me? And I don't mean that in a Pollyanna way. I mean that really, I know that to be true in the decades of my life now, that this this is really a wonderful gift that we have to be able to be one with each other, to use these 4 gifts on a daily basis.
And we can actually learn from the struggle.
Yes. Well, that's how, people talk about, that's how we get the muscles, is by lifting the weights. Now, some of the muscles that I've gained, I don't want to have other people gain the muscle the same way. And I think that's a part of the process we're in right now about violence against different people, women, different people of color, hearing about the policeman being killed. And, you can go get beside yourself and you realize, all right, what is the action that I can do to be part of the change? And that actually ultimately is how the book came about. I was going to tell you this quick little story, but I was so upset 3 years ago. I'd already started writing this book, but it was kind of on the side, sort of moving along. And I got so upset. I thought, okay, Anita, if you're this upset, you obviously are still not doing enough. What is it can do? So I decided to go talk to the most influential people I know, which are people in the Transformational Leadership Council. That's people like John Gray, Jack Canfield, Marianne Williamson, big reach people all over the world doing transformation. And I went and spoke to them, and they, let's encourage, oh, that is so powerful. You need to write this. But in the audience was a new member. And afterwards, she kept asking me a lot of questions and said, that should be a book, what you talked about. And I said, who are you? And she said, I'm a publisher with Simon & Schuster, a new member, and we want your book. And that's how it came to be. And I think the universe responds big ways, little ways, daily. I so believe in miracles. I so believe in, us being here. Who knew I was going to be talking to the juice guru, and whoever else is listening, how this could change lives. These are all miracles. And the world answers, the universe answers. So using these 4 gifts puts us in a flow and energy of gratitude, of caring, of what the elders said, understanding that we are truly one. We are connected to ourselves, our head and hearts, to each other, and to the earth and all other beings.
What a beautiful book. And yeah, and the timing does seem right. This is the time right now.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? People just how could this, all be happening? And just, we're about to go into, next month will be the second 2-year anniversary of Standing Rock. And, regardless of whether you stand around all of those issues, we all know water is basically essentials. You cannot have life without water. We need oxygen, we need water, and we need nutrition. So, we've got to learn how to care for this and ask really clear questions about what we're doing, what our behaviors and the implications of that will be by not treating our water as sacred, treating ourselves as sacred, since we're mostly water.
Yeah, all 3 need to be kept clean. All 3.
Yes, absolutely.
So what are some tangible steps we can take now so we can become less isolated and more connected? What are some suggestions you might have?
Well, let me start with some hope, because I think it's written about a lot now. There's people say, oh, that hope doesn't really matter. But for Indigenous people, again, you're talking about people who have been in genocide in different parts of the world and still under siege, is that despite facts to the contrary, hope is an energy source, and it's inside of every one of us. So as you're listening to this or watching, I hope that you can go inside and think about, when is a time in your life or that you've observed somewhere else where it just seemed like, no, there's no way that this could work out. And yet something happens. And hope can be brought about by, I'm going to invite everyone to please dream, vision of what's possible. The worst is when people become cynical and say, oh, I haven't dreamed in years. I just don't believe in that. It's like, that is a pull. Lots of our industry and technology was developed because people had the ability to vision, to image something that didn't exist. And that is true for all of us, that we can vision, and then that vision can pull us to be in right action, to heal the traumas between each other and the hurt, to bring ourselves to care about the earth and the water and all the species. We have that capacity. So that's one of the biggest places, I think, listening, and then gratitude, and then I think is so important to just draw on that choice hope is a choice. No one can take away your hope. And I'm talking from someone who's experienced a lot of hurts and mistreatments in life and seen things that are very despairing. I work with people in warring countries. No one can take away your hope. It is an energy source that's infinite, and you get to choose to draw on it, or you get to choose to not draw on it.
It's Anita Sanchez right here on Juice Guru Radio. We'll have links to her website and the book, The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. Anita, thank you so much for being here on the show. We're going to take some questions from the Juice Guru Rewind, so stick around for that in just a minute. But thank you, Anita. Anything to say? I mean, that just wrapped it up beautifully, but anything that we didn't touch on or anything else to say in closing before we close out the radio show here?
No, just thank you so much for inviting me here, and thank all of you who are watching and listening. And go to foursacredgifts.com, and you can learn more and get that song so that you can remind you, as well as, of course, continue to watch this video and listen to the radio.
Thank you. Anita Sanchez right here on Juice Guru Radio. And if you're on Facebook, go ahead and type in your questions below, and we'll try to get to them for you. But if you're in the rewind here, I see a hand is up. Let me just stop the Facebook live stream. So now it's just our intimate community here. Let me see. I see a hand is up. I'm going to go ahead and bring you on, Maria. And let me see. We've got Donna and Jacqueline. You can turn your camera on or keep it off, but I see some cameras are on. And hello, welcome to the inner circle here. Wait, which hand was up? Was that you, Karen? Let me see here. Go ahead. Well, you can unmute if you want to ask a question, or you can type it in. But I did see a hand was up for a question for Anita. And I'm also going to check on Facebook here. Was that you? Hi. Maria, was that you?
Yes. Is that for the number 4 or FOUR on the website?
FOUR.
Okay.
FOUR. Thank you for asking.
Wasn't she great? We're so blessed. So thank you, Maria. This was a great interview, Anita. I have a question here on Facebook from the Juice Guru Rewind community. They were asking about the 4 sacred gifts, if you can just run by them, and they want to know if the book goes into more detail about each one.
Exactly. And the book does go in detail about each gift, giving through story and how-tos to use the gifts. So the 4 gifts are the power to forgive the unforgivable, the power of unity, the power of healing, and the power of hope in action. These 4 gifts, not in any order, all important, will help us to remember our connection to ourselves, to other people, and to the earth, so that we can live in harmony.
Great. Any other questions in the community here? That's all I see on Facebook. Any other last questions for Anita before we say goodbye? And I have a quick announcement for the Rewind members once we conclude here. But any last questions, you can type them in, or you can unmute your microphone or turn on your video, whatever you like. And if not, we're going to move to the next part of this. Anita, thank you. You are a gift. Thank you to Wasabi Publishing for connecting. And I do have a question here from Jacqueline. Yes, how are we humans complicit in climate change? How are we humans complicit?
Yes, I think that's part of the getting quiet and asking questions like, how am I a part of this, of what's happening? So instead of lashing out of anger at everyone, yes, we need to seek justice and correct things, but what am I doing? Like, what am I doing in terms of what I'm eating? Just thinking about it, what am I putting in my body? And knowing that certain kinds of products and certain meats and stuff that is causing more carbon, and what could I do if I just adjust that, just how I eat to a degree? And then where do I get my water? Some of the questions we're here is if, food just shows up in the grocery store, or our water just comes when we turn the tap. It's asking those questions. Where do they come from? And then how are they being cared for? How is my tax dollar being used to really protect those waterways? So all those, being discerning and asking those questions. Am I good medicine or am I bad medicine? And that might be a strange question to ask yourself, but I'd like you to add that. Because if you're good medicine, remember, we're bringing into alignment everything from the spiritual, mental, and physical plane. That means we have to be aware. awake, and in positive action.
It was funny. I was in Sedona over the break and meeting with a friend of mine who does spiritual work. We're going to have him on a future episode, but he was talking about the idea of, kind of like what you're saying, the good medicine, the bad medicine, that we all have both in us, and, which is going to rise to the surface, and how do we extinguish or alleviate some of the issues that come from the bad. Would you agree that there's a combination in both within all of us?
Well, we all have the capacity for there. And that's why I think what's really powerful is we have some choice around that. Now, we have to forgive ourselves when we fall short. I mean, I can't tell you how many years it took for me to realize that I did not need to drink bottled water. I just thought it was my comfort. Then I realized what was happening to that plastic and where it was being disposed of in the oceans. And then all of a sudden it's like, Anita, carry a container with you. All sorts of other things that I can do, even in the middle of the rainforest where I have to make sure to carry water. There's ways to do it in a good way. So yes, I totally agree with you. Both are there, but it depends on which one we want to feed. There's an old saying, I won't go through the whole thing, but basically wolves, there's a war going on. There's this fighting between the wolves, and there's the good wolves and the bad wolves, but there's this fighting, like, who's going to win? Well, it's which one you decide to feed, which one you nourish. So that's why it's so important for us to look at our mindset, that we are connected, or do we believe we're separate? And then to use these gifts to help us make sure that we're being good medicine to ourselves and to each other.
Maria Katharina, did you have a question? I saw your hand was up. Did you want me to unmute?
Yeah. I was wondering what the name of her book was, if you'll have a link for us later, or?
Yeah, when we put the replay up for you in the rewind, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it in the chat box too here. And it is on Amazon, and her website, which is, let me just type it in there. That's forsacredgifts.com, right, Anita?
Yes, forsacredgifts.com, spelled out the number 4.
Yep, there it is. And that'll take you right to her website, and you can order it right off there from Barnes & Noble, Amazon. So, yeah, thank you, Maria Katharina, for letting us know.
Thank you.
That's helpful. And we always put the links at the end, so when we do the replays, you'll have them for every interview. And let me just see. I think Jacqueline wrote in again. Let's see. She said, of course, we can make a huge difference by not driving cars, which I gave up years ago. That way, there's no dependence on oil or any petroleum products.
Absolutely. And we do different things for those who have to fly that we try to offset. But the reality was we need to change how we're doing things. So like this, we're going to communicate with each other and not get in a car and use petroleum, move away from fossil fuels, and look at, more renewable solar and wind. And so yes, we can all make choices about how we're going to live into our oneness, our ability to thrive in this world.
Right. She just followed up. People are way too dependent on their cars. There's always public transportation or carpooling available.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's absolutely. There's every single part of our lives we can look at, and every single environment of our life, and see what are we doing that could be more life-giving, that isn't going to be hurting ourselves, the earth, other creatures. We can be asking ourselves that question always. And you can do it on the positive side. What could I be doing to really help support life? What could I be doing?
Well, Anita, thank you again for being here. Thank you for the interview. And we'd love to have you back down the road. So thank you again for connecting.
And thank you all.
And we're going to go ahead and I'll move to the next part of this. And have a good night, Anita. And now I just wanted to ask everyone in this, well, if you're watching the replay or anyone with us live, if you've got the link for the Global Juice Fast, did everyone sign up for that yet? What'd you say, Karen? Let me unmute you. I don't hear your mic.
No, I didn't get it.
Oh, yeah, I had announced it. I'm going to put a link in. We're going to be doing some promotions around this, so you'll get emails, but I want to let you know this is a collaboration we're doing with, and let me just pull that up for you. Let me just pull up the page. So this is coming in just 10 days, and everyone's invited. It's a great way to start the new year. And let me just show you what we've got So there it is. That's the Global Juice Fast with Jenny Ross Living Foods and the Sprout Brothers, Sprout Man's sons, Ari and Noah Meyerowitz. It's free, and as part of the community, I'd love for you to take part in this. It's brought to you by TriBest and Juice Guru and Sprout Man as well, and it's going to be phenomenal. So I'm going to go ahead and put the link so you can get signed up here in the box. And if you're watching the replay, it's globaljuicefast.com. Just make sure you get registered so you'll get the emails and all the material you'll need to reset along with us in this new year. It's going to be a lot of fun. That was the only announcement I had to. And as you know, you can always look at the calendar and the rewind to find out what events we have coming up. We've got your training with Dana Wilde coming this month, the mastermind training on training your brain for healthy habits. It's going to be incredible, and that's just for this community. And then the weekly rewinds like we did here today. So thank you for coming by. Any last questions or comments or anything to share before we close?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, I got my TriBest juicer like right after Christmas, and it's the best thing I ever had. I had a juice lady before, and oh my God, it's amazing how much better it is. So I'm glad about that. And also,
oh yeah, did we get that for you?
Wearing.
I got that for you, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, because as part of the rewind, you get the special pricing. So thank you for the support. We love giving. Which one did we get you? I forget.
Was it the big one? I ended up getting the big one.
Oh yeah, you got the Elite after thinking Slow Star, right? I knew you'd love it. Any questions about it? You got the extra large cleaning brush.
Yeah.
Which makes
awesome. And we went to the car show in San Diego, and I was like, they're juicing, and they're like, let's go. I'm like, no, I got to clean it before we go. And it was like so fast and so quick. It was awesome.
I love it. Yeah. And remember that juice lasts up to 3 days. So we make them in batches. We just do it twice a week, and that's it.
Yes, definitely started doing that. And then where can I get one of those shirts?
This? I love this company shirts. Here, let me put the link. And they're really good quality, very soft. Let me put the link for that in the box.
Cool.
Yeah, it was funny that she was talking about gratitude as I wore the shirt. Check it out. So they've got the B. Here, let me just do a screen share. And for those watching the replay, it's justbuddha.com for these interesting shirts. Let me see. Am I already sharing my screen? Do you see it? No. That's it. So you've got the Be Change and Be Compassion. They've got little quotes on the back, too, of each one.
Oh, cool.
And I think they were having a really great sale. Let me just see. So you go to their website. I think it's under Shop or Cart. I'm not sure where. Interesting. I'm trying to find just the main card on there, but I must be missing something. Do you see it?
I see a shirt, but I can figure it out.
It's like a little shop on here. And they were on sale, so I want to see if they're still doing it. They were like $15 or $16 a shirt or something, and they're really good quality. So really nice, though. And that was it. Any other questions from the tribe here? You can type them in the box. And if not, we'll see you next week. Let's just look at the calendar and see what we have coming up. So you can be sure to clear your calendar and make these live events. I think next Wednesday, we're doing nutritional healing with Chinese medicine with author Ellen Goldsmith. That's next Wednesday. And then the 18th, we're doing self-care for sustainable living with Allison Rivers Sampson. And that's going to be on Thursday the 18th. And I just want to double check. Yeah, when's the one? And then the 24th, we've got The Secret Nature of Matter with Richard Gordon. And the 16th, that's the mastermind only Train Your Brain for Healthy Habits with Dana Wilde. And if anyone knows her work, she's incredible. So that's what we have coming up this month. And then I think the last week, the 31st, we've got social networking with Jordan Harbinger, and he's phenomenal. So we're bringing some interesting topics your way as part of the Rewind. Thank you all for being here. Happy New Year. Thank you for supporting us. And we'll see you next week.